Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Ananya Datta. Coming up on this broadcast, chaos inside the Taiwanese parliament is mirroring the uncertainty outside the island. The next president, Lai Ching-te, will take charge on this Monday. And this is what is awaiting him: a fractured parliament, an aggressive China, and dwindling diplomatic ties. Over in the US, a war miles away continues to divide its voters. And with less than 6 months to go for presidential elections, this divide is not good news for Joe Biden's Democratic vote bank. Scuffle broke out in Taiwan's parliament today. While it was over chamber reforms, the chaos is representative of what is awaiting the next president of Taiwan. Take a look.
It was an important day for Taiwan. Lawmakers were scheduled to discuss parliamentary reforms. The opposition is seeking more power to scrutinize the government. But the ruling party accused them of forcing through the proposal. Even before the two sides got to the debate, lawmakers started heckling and shoving each other. Soon, the entire house was in chaos.
If the DPP continues to try and block the voting process, I believe this will happen again and again. So we call on President Lai Ching-te to tell the DPP caucus not to use violence at every turn.
The brawl comes days before President Tsai Ing-wen's successor will take charge. Lai Ching-te assumes office without a legislative majority. And that's the trigger for the differences. The main opposition party, the Kuomintang, has more seats than the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. But not enough for a majority. It is working with a smaller party to push through its own proposal. The ruling party calls this alliance unconstitutional. The fractured parliament is due to obvious geopolitical issues. When the new president takes office, he faces a China that calls him a dangerous separatist. Beijing will be closely watching Lai's inaugural speech.
He wants to show that Taiwan is not a troublemaker, and then we're actually looking for peace. But no matter what he says, during the inauguration, I think China would always disagree what he said.
China has already escalated its daily military activities. It is staging mock attacks on foreign vessels and regularly violating Taiwan's airspace. Diplomatic ties are another headache for Lai. Only 12 countries now formally recognize Taiwan diplomatically. Most of them are poorer, developing nations. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Let's shift focus now. With less than 6 months to go for presidential elections in the United States, Joe Biden's Democratic vote bank is witnessing a growing divide. And at the heart of this divide is Gaza's war-induced humanitarian crisis and the nationwide U.S. campus protests. 44% registered Democrats say that they disapprove of how the U.S. president is handling the crisis. And experts say the split among Democrats can impact Biden's re-election in November. Taking a look at the U.S. vote bank across ideological and party allegiance, this is what the Reuters Ipsos poll numbers have to say. Among registered Democrats, 38% support the pro-Palestine protests across cities and university campuses in the country. 38% are also against the ongoing demonstrations. For registered Republicans, the mandate is more divisive. Only 8% support the protests, while a whopping 81% are against the pro-Palestine protests. As far as the independent vote bank goes, 23% are backing the protests, while 58% registered voters are against it. Now, to take this further, we are being joined by our correspondent Susan Tehrani live from New York. All right, we are getting some issues to connect with our correspondent. We are talking about the opinion polls that are coming in from the US just 6 months ahead of presidential elections. in the country. Remember, on 7th of October last year, Hamas launched an attack against Israel, and that sparked a full-scale war in Israel, and that's of course miles away from the US, but it is definitely affecting domestic politics in the United States. What is also important here that a good percentage of vote bank that is in favor of the Democrats actually support the cause of Palestinians, and which is why this is becoming extremely divisive among the vote bank that we are seeing in the US. And all of this comes just 6 months ahead of elections in the United States. Now, the shots that you're seeing on air at the moment here on WION are, of course, of the campus protests that have been happening across the United States in support of the Palestinians. And this is another cause of concern for the sitting president in the US, Joe Biden. All right, we have been able to connect to our correspondent Susan Tehrani live from New York. Susan, good to see you. I want to ask you, how are Joe Biden and his team actually looking at these kind of opinion polls that are coming in from the US? All right, we seem to have some issues with... So, Susan, can you hear me? I think there is some issue, audio issue with Susan at the moment. All right, let's move on for now. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is making headlines again. And this time it is not for another Tory MP leaving the party. It is also not yet another poll telling us how much further his ranking has fallen. Today it's about the increase in wealth that Rishi Sunak and his wife have amassed. As per the latest annual Sunday Times Rich List, Sunak and his wife Akshata Murthy have registered a substantial increase of £120 million in their personal fortune. Their wealth now stands at £651 million. In 2023, Rishi Sunak and Akshata Murthy recorded a combined personal fortune of close to £530 million. However, the total wealth between Sunak and his wife remains below the record 2022 mark, when the couple's wealth was estimated at about £730 million. The list comes out just months before elections are supposed to be held in the UK, and the timing also overlaps with an ongoing cost of living crisis in the country. Now, that has been a key issue on the ballot for the recent local polls. If economic conditions don't improve, it is safe to say inflation will remain a key issue on voters' minds. Now, as United Kingdom is bracing up for general elections later this year, the Labour Party has begun the process of choosing a new candidate to replace Jeremy Corbyn in London's Islington North constituency. Since the former Labour leader was blocked from standing for the party last year, he has been sitting as an independent MP since 2020. A shortlist of new candidates is expected to be rolled on the 1st of June. The party has announced the opening of applications for the viable candidates. Now, who all are eyeing the Islington North constituency is to question. First on the list is Paul Mason, who is a journalist and a broadcaster. The contender on the list, next contender rather, is Christian Walmer, who is a railway historian and has been a Labour candidate since the 2016 Richmond by-election. Meanwhile, there is no clarity on whether or not Corbyn will stand as an independent for the upcoming general polls. But if he does, it would mean that the possible Labour candidates will have to face Corbyn, who has been an MP in Islington North since 1983. The 74-year-old Corbyn was dismissed by the Labour Party's governing body, the National Executive Committee, while he continues to be a member of the Labour Party. He sits as an independent MP in the Parliament, and as per sources, his exit was caused by his reaction to a critical report on anti-Semitism. He said that the scale of the issue was quote-unquote dramatically overstated within the Labour. While Corbyn was suspended over his failure to repatriate his words, he called the move a political one. Separately, he stepped down as the Labour leader in 2019 after the party's worst ever defeat since 1935. Now, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal and his Aam Aadmi Party find themselves in the middle of yet another controversy. AAP leader Swati Maliwal is at the centre of an alleged harassment row involving party boss Arvind Kejriwal's aide Bibhav Kumar. Maliwal was allegedly assaulted by Bibhav Kumar at the Chief Minister's residence in Delhi's Civil Lines area on June 13th. A day later, AAP Sanjay Singh confirmed the quote-unquote distressing incident. He said Maliwal was waiting to meet the Chief Minister when Mr. Kumar quote-unquote misbehaved with her on Monday. Singh added that the party stands by Maliwal. He went ahead and called her one of AAP's oldest and senior-most leaders. Meanwhile, Delhi police confirmed they received 2 calls from an unknown person within Arvind Kejriwal's residence, but from a phone number registered to Maliwal, alerting them about the harassment. Maliwal reportedly later appeared at a police station in the area but left without filing a complaint. After 4 days of silence over the incident, she finally submitted a statement to Delhi police on Thursday. Police recorded Maliwal's statement and have filed a case against Arvind Kejriwal's aide. The police have registered an FIR against Kumar for assault, criminal intimidation and outraging a woman's modesty under relevant sections of the Indian Penal Code. Time for a short break now, but don't go too far. On the other side, we'll tell you what the Indian diaspora in South Africa expects from the next government.
The biggest democratic exercise on the planet ever. Decoding the multiple colors of this multi-dimensional, multi-layered spectacle. WION deciphers the images and the hues. Sifts real performance from rhetoric and noise, claims and counterclaims, populist pitches and hidden truths. Untangling, unraveling this celebration of democracy. This week on Inside South Asia, wave upon wave of massive protests in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir forces Pakistan to fork out $86 million for the region. But will residents of exploited POK be mollified? India inks 10-year deal to operate Iran's Chabahar port. US warns of potential risk of sanctions. Decoding New Delhi's series of concessions for Mali despite distinct anti-India pro-China moves by the Maldives under President Muizu. Over 3,000 people killed as flash floods ravage northern Afghanistan, picking up the pieces an uphill task. This and more on Inside South Asia.
This week on WION E-Club, we tell you about India's history at the ongoing Cannes Film Festival.
At last,
Find out all about the Bridgerton franchise as the new season of the hit show starts streaming online. And meet the Indian actor-producer duo Rajkumar Rao and Nidhi Hiranandani as they talk about their latest movie, Shrikant. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal on WION at these times.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at wion.com.
Welcome back. You're watching Race to Power. South Africa is heading to elections in less than 2 weeks. There is a lot of uncertainty, not just for South Africans with voting rights, but also for those living in the country for many years. WION spoke to a few people from the Indian diaspora to get their reactions.
3 decades ago, South Africans voted in the first ever election held in the country. It was a defining moment. 30 years on, the political landscape of the nation stands at an important juncture again. Experts and polls alike project that the ruling African National Congress may lose majority. The mandate may pave the way for a coalition government. Not just natives, but immigrants, particularly the Indian community, is bracing for the road ahead.
The way we live from 1994, anyone prior, that unity, especially we say rainbow nation, that sustain, we are always that feel very warm welcome in South Africa all the years in the ruling of ANC. Whoever come in power, that may remain and look after all the people with different religion, different creed, and the things that always we stay together.
Jharna Dixit has been living in South Africa for the last 24 years with her family. She says the country has treated her well and believes it has great opportunities. In this election, she hopes the party that takes care of all people living in South Africa, regardless of their nationality, should win.
As a foreigner and who lives in South Africa and feel like South Africa is our home now, we feel like we are hoping that we can have election which is transparent, democratic, and we can elect someone who can listen to each and every person who is residing in South Africa, take care of their well-being, their rights, their security, regardless of their nationality.
For decades, the country has battled mounting issues like corruption, unemployment, power shortages, and economic growth ridden with challenges. Can a changing political landscape alter the country's fortunes? Is the million-dollar question.
South Africa, better known as the Rainbow Nation, has lived up to its name for 3 decades. People of all race, color, and background live in this country together, and as the country prepares to go to the polls, people in the Indian diaspora are hoping that whichever party wins, it must continue to live the legacy of Nelson Mandela and stick to its true name of Rainbow Nation. This is Kalden Ormo from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.
The Indian state of West Bengal is the economic powerhouse of East India. Moreover, its 42 members of parliament can make or break political fortunes at the centre. As the election fever reaches fever pitch, we bring you an economic snapshot of West Bengal.
The state of West Bengal is no stranger to economic prosperity. It was once the crown jewel of India thanks to its favourable demography and topography. But after the 1950s and 60s, West Bengal faced an unprecedented economic downfall. The rise of the left front led many businesses and industries to flee the state. What followed was 3 decades of economic stagnation. But West Bengal is moving forward with renewed vigour to reclaim its lost glory. In the last 10 years, the state has steadily achieved commendable economic growth. Take these numbers for some perspective. West Bengal's GDP has risen from just $58 billion in 2011 to $176 billion in 2020-2021. Between 2015-16 and 2020-21, the state's GDP grew at an average of 12.6%. In 2021-22, the state's economic growth was higher than India's growth of 9.18%. But it's not just the GDP figures that have defied the odds. Its average annual farmer's income has grown 3.5 times in less than 15 years. Capital expenditure, the key to infrastructure development, has seen a 6-fold increase. Meanwhile, the state is gradually becoming an IT hub, while its MSME sector is the second biggest in India. But significant challenges remain for West Bengal. The state has a high debt to GDP ratio, estimated at 36.9% for the ongoing fiscal year. For its massive size, it is too dependent on agriculture, which relatively contributes little to the economy. Years of stagnation has meant that it lags behind other big states when it comes to high-end manufacturing. The state also has a low own tax revenue to GDP ratio, which shows a lack of money-generating sources. All this has contributed to a per capita income that is lower compared to smaller states like Haryana. But things are changing, and for good. West Bengal's economy is projected to be about $228 billion by March 2025. The state also intends to double its exports in the coming years and emerge as a trading hub. Given its unique demography and strategic location, West Bengal looks set to achieve that goal. Strong fiscal discipline and macroeconomic policies can turn the tide for the eastern state. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And with that, we are wrapping up this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching with me, Ananya Datta.
This week on Tech It Out, we tell you how artificial intelligence is helping people regain voice. We show you new AI-powered TVs that can help improve your viewing experience. And